Welcome to the Friday press conference ahead of this weekend's Bahrain Grand Prix. Joining us today from left to right, we have Fred Vasseur, Zach Brown, Günther Steiner and Franz Tost. Question to all of you first. You had a meeting with Formula One on Tuesday of this week. In the broadest terms, can you tell us what was presented and is there a positive way forward regarding 2021? Fred, if we could start with you, please.
We can. Yeah, that we try to cover all the topics of the project, and for sure that we are going. I think that we are doing good step forwards. It's not an easy one because that we are 10 teams around the table with different kind of structure for the company, with different targets, and but we are going in the right direction from my point of view.
Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with Fred. Chase rolled out, I think, pretty much what we were all expecting around budget cap, revenue distribution, governance, and technical rules. I don't think anyone was surprised because he's been consulting with all the teams really since this time last year. And like Fred said, I think it was all a very positive step in the right direction. It's probably not an ideal situation for any of the 10 teams, but I think given how you have 10 different teams, you're never going to land on something that works for all. So I think the fact that it is maybe not perfect for any one team means he got it pretty right.
Thank you. Günther?
I think I would like to say the same. I mean, there was positive talks, and if they would all agree what we want, we would be done. But they don't, so they've got their own thing to think about. So, without joking, I mean, I think it's a good step forward, and hopefully we can get this done soon because we need it. We need to move forward. We need technical regulations. We need to the governance know how that works going forward. So, but Chase and Ross, they work hard on it, and with the FIA, with Jean Todt, and hopefully they can come up soon with the ultimate solution which will please all of us and find the right compromise between the 10 of us, which I guess I don't envy them to try to find a compromise between us 10, but somebody has to do it, and they will get it done.
Thank you. And Franz?
There's not too much to add. We talked about all the topics which were just mentioned, and I think that Liberty Media and FIA is on the right way forward, and I hope that soon we will have a final regulation on the sporting side as well as on the technical side. Regarding the commercial prospect, a little bit difficult because, as you can imagine, the top teams do not want to spend less money. The smaller teams want to spend less money. It's earlier or later compromise which we have to find to have a good and competitive and interesting Formula One in the future.
Thank you, Franz. Zach, if we could come back to you now. There's a new face with the team this weekend in your technical director, James Key. During your meetings with him so far, what's been on the agenda?
Well, it's very early days. James just started on Monday and attended the strategy group meeting with me on Tuesday. And then, of course, he's been here ever since. So I think he's just in a observation mode at the moment, getting to know the team. You know, we've made quite a few changes starting middle of last year. And so it's great to have him on board. And then, of course, we've got Andreas Seidel, who will be joining us in a month to run the Formula One team. So I think once he's joined, then we'll be pretty complete on our racing team. And then we just need to put our head down and try and go faster.
James Key is new, but there's a returnee next week in Fernando Alonso, who's going to be testing on Tuesday. How do you expect his input to help the team?
Oh, he's got 17, 18 years of experience in Formula One, 3, 4, 5 years experience with McLaren. Obviously a very talented, experienced driver, and so as we look to continue the development, as the midfield all sitting here is unbelievably tight, going to value his opinion and feedback, and to get 3 drivers contributing to how we can make the race car better is 1/3 more than just having 2. So I think his experience will be a valuable contribution.
And his experience in 2018 in particular?
Yeah, you know, ultimately a lot of the this year's car was developed based on his feedback from last year. So for him to be able to get in the car and recognize the changes that we've made, I think he'll just be able to say, you know, we've gone in the right direction, wrong direction, do a little bit more of this, a little bit less of that, and you know, make sure that he gives Carlos and Lando as much of a competitive car as possible.
Thank you, Zach. Franz, if we could come on to you now. You have a new driver lineup this year, both of whom have been invited back into the Red Bull fold. First of all, how has Daniel changed since he was last with the team?
You know, when Daniel was the first time with us, it was in 2014, he came from GP3 to Formula 1. It was a big step in those days. And he did a really good job with us. Then he went to Red Bull Racing, had also some good race results over there. He finished on the podium. But for different reasons, he came back to us, and he was struggling a little bit, but not because of his abilities and because of his skills. I think in those days our car was also not so reliable and so competitive. Therefore, it was really a difficult situation. And he had then 1 year break, was together with Ferrari, learned a lot, became much more matured, has a better overview of Formula 1, and he is now back and he is showing his performance. Therefore, we are very happy that Daniel is with us. Alex is coming from Formula 2, won last year 4 races, showed a really good performance, and from the first test onwards, I was really happy to have him in the team because he surprised all of us by a fantastic performance and also by a really good technical feedback. He has also a good overview how to treat the tires, and I must say that Toro Rosso has a very strong driver lineup this year, and I'm convinced that both of them will have a lot of success in the future.
So good driver lineup. What about the engine? It's your second year with Honda. How much progress have they made last year to this?
They made big steps forward regarding the reliability as well as the performance. And I must say a big thank you to Sakura in Japan because they worked very hard and they closed the gap to the top teams. With Red Bull Racing, I think that they are this year in a position to fight for victories as well as for the championship. And I'm more than happy to have to work together with Honda, with such an established company.
Thank you, Franz. Fred, if we could come on to you now, please. Let's start by talking about drivers as well, 2 new drivers for the team. How has Kimi's experience helped you so far?
As you know that we are, even if sober in F1 before and now Alfa Romeo Racing for a long time, that it's quite a new team because that we restructured the company last year and the year before a lot, and we have plenty of new guys, and I think that to have Kimi on board is a good push in terms of experience also for the team. That the drivers, for sure, they are a pillar of the performance, not only into the car, but also alongside, and he's part of the development of the company and the team.
And are you confident that Antonio can run him close this year?
Yeah, that he did a very good Q1 in Melbourne, and that I will be patient. You know, I remember perfectly the press conference last year in Bahrain that the big part of the journalists wanted to ask me that when Charles will stop, because he was absolutely nowhere from them after 2 races, and then he was the world champion. That you just have to stay calm, everybody, to give him the time to put everything together, but I'm very confident that he will do it.
So as you say, a lot of changes at Alfa Romeo Racing over the winter. What's a realistic goal in terms of the Constructors' Championship this year?
Honestly, that it's difficult to have a clear picture after Melbourne. That the only thing is that I think that you can move in terms of team from P4 to P9 or P10 from one session to the other one. That it's more than tight and probably more than before, and more than ever. And it will be probably a big fight on development, and we have to stay focused and to be able to do the same as we did last year. and then we'll see. But I don't want to try to point something like this.
Thank you, Fred. Gunther, thank you for waiting. Coming on to you now. So everyone else here has new drivers for 2019. You have the same driver lineup as last year. What advantages has that stability given you?
Just keeping the stability. We hope to have an advantage that the drivers don't have to settle in, because that always takes a little bit of time. They know us, we know them. And for us last year, when we had to decide, we came to the conclusion that that's the best way for us forward, just to keep it stable and go on another year with the same driver lineup.
And what about your ambitions for this year? You finished 5th in the Constructors' Championship last year. Given the size and budgets of the teams ahead of you, how realistic is P4?
I think it's very difficult to say yet, because we had one race, we had one big test and one race, and we don't know where we really stand. I think we have to wait a few races to see, but I mean, that will be our aim. If we achieve it or not, I don't know yet, but you have always to aim for something better. And as Fred just mentioned, the midfield is very competitive this year, more than ever, I would say. So you never know what is happening from race to race here, which I find is interesting, but we just try to make less mistakes. We didn't start well in Australia with that one, but we tried to recover from it and just try to score as many points as possible and try to achieve 4th, which would be better than last year. But you never know. Let's wait and see.
And to get 4th, are you going to have to change your approach regarding development?
No, I think we made a big step last year from 2 years ago, how we develop. We learned a lot, and we try to do even better than last year. But we will bring developments. We try to make them quicker this year. Last year we were a little bit slow because we don't have our own manufacturing capabilities. We are outsourced. But by doing that last year a little bit more, we found better partners, better people which can react quicker. So we just try to be quicker and just do more, like everybody else will do with this new regulation this year. This is the race to finish best of the rest, basically. Who can manage the upgrades better, and who can do more, and who can get better upgrades.
Thank you, Gunther. Well, let's open this up to the floor now. And as ever, please remember to give your name and publication. First question, please.
Dieter Renken, Racing Lines and Racefans.net. Reference Tom's question earlier on about the Tuesday's meeting. It was here exactly a year ago today, according to the calendar, that Liberty presented their vision for 2021. So exactly a year has passed. Have we actually made any progress in that year? To all 4 of you, please.
Well, we started with Fred last time. Let's start with Franz this time.
Yes, they made some steps forward, because on the spotting regulation side as well as on the technical regulation side, there are some really good ideas. I hope that they will take place. And from the commercial side, there are also some changes. As I mentioned before, I think they are on the right way, but time is now becoming a crucial factor, because we have to decide, or they have to decide now, the final version of all these different topics within the next half of the year, and I hope that they will do this.
Gunther, your thoughts?
I fully agree with Franz on that it's now a timing issue. We need to get this done rather quicker than later. And on the other side, to answer the question, did we make progress? Yes, we made progress, but progress you cannot only see in is the new document better than the old one. It's also progress, I think, for FIA, FOM, and for us, is a better understanding of each other, what we want to achieve and what can be achieved with the different models we are getting out there. So I think there's been a lot of progress made, not actually in what is offered, but in the understanding of what needs to be done that everybody agrees. And that is not written on paper. That is more a general understanding of all the parties involved to make the next proposal and to get closer, to get something final, and to see where it needs to be reworked. But I would say it has been made progress. But as I continue to say, timing now is very important.
Thank you. And Zach?
Not much to build on other than what Gunter and Franz said, other than, yes, there's definitely been progress because we now have a deal in front of us to react to. I think it's been well thought out. We've all been consulted, and would just emphasize, timing now is of the essence to get it done so we can all get prepared, but the ball's really in our court for that.
Thank you. And Fred?
Yeah, difficult to add something, but honestly, we did good progress. Now we know that we have to close the deal soon, but at least on the technical regulation, sporting regulation, and all this side of the discussion, that I think that we have a much better picture of the situation. And on the other aspect, more financial, I think that we are doing one step in direction of each other, and we will be able to close something soon.
Thank you. Next one, please.
Dan Knudsen, Auto Action and Speed Sport. For all of you, starting with Gunther, please, how would you describe your philosophy and style of team management?
I would say pretty direct. I mean, I'm hands-on. I'm doing this a long time. So, but I try to motivate people in the best way by being direct and telling them what I think, and then we discuss. Pretty simple.
Zach, your management style.
Probably best that you ask the racing team, but you know, my view is you need to bring on the best talent you can, empower them, give them the resources that they need, and ultimately, you know, all these Formula One teams are big entities, and so you need great teamwork. So I tend to focus on letting everyone do what they do best. They're more talented than I am in many areas.
Fred?
It's always difficult to describe yourself, and probably it will be much useful to ask to my guys. But I'm coming from racing, and I try to get everybody motivated with the same spirit that we are a small team on the grid, and we need to get the best from everybody if we want to be competitive. And we have to keep that the approach of the proper racing team, and I think we are on the good way.
Thank you. And Franz?
I would say democratic way of management. All the people which are in the team, in the board in the board management of the team, are involved in any major decisions. We are sitting together nearly every second day to discuss the important topics, and then we make together a decision, and to motivate the people and to find the money to run the team. These are the jobs.
Okay. Next question, please.
Ben Anderson from F1 Racing. You were talking about the need for urgency over clarifying the 2021 picture, but whatever those rules look like, there's talk of a delay to publishing them, maybe to December, to not benefit the top teams and help the smaller teams as leaders of smaller teams. Would you really benefit from a delay to the publication of the regulations, considering you would have, in theory, less time and less resource to react to that delay?
Ben, is that to everybody? Yes, please. Let's start with Fred this time.
It's always difficult to know if the late publication of the regulation will help the small team or the big teams, because I think that they are also able to develop much faster than us. And it's not an easy go and an easy way to decide, but honestly, that it's not, for me, it's not just a matter of timing, it's also a matter of to be sure that what we are doing, and that it's much better probably to take this kind of the decision and to publish something a bit later, that it's not we are not in a rush to publish something 27th of June, or that it's not the big part of the deal.
Zach?
Yeah, I think we'll just react accordingly, as all the racing teams will. So obviously, if you start earlier, you get a bigger head start. Also gives the ability to maybe spend more money, which the big teams have. So if it's June, August, December, doesn't really matter. It'll be the same for all 10 teams, and we'll all respond accordingly.
Gunther?
I agree with Zach, but whatever it is on this topic, because I think the big teams will always be in a better position, because in theory they should be in a better position if we start later, because then they can throw even more in a short time emphasis on it. So it's neither here nor there. I think at some stage we just have to come to a conclusion that we get started and get going, you know, keep it practical and don't discuss, or maybe I've got a little bit of an advantage, because then that is why we are and we don't decide. So I think from our side, it's like if we start in June, fine. If we start in December, fine as well. We will not have a big opinion about either of it.
Thank you. And Franz?
First of all, it's not 100% decided yet. Should be confidential, but anyway, as we see, people know about what we discussed in this meeting. The main topic is not to spend even more money, because as earlier the new regulation is being published, as earlier the teams start to investigate this new regulation and to spend a hell of a money for the development. Which means if the new regulation comes out in June this year, teams immediately will be concentrated to build up engineering groups to investigate this new regulation and to start with the different tests and simulations just to get an advantage out of it. We will see now where we end up.
Okay, thank you. Next question, please.
Abdurrahman Sahaf, University College of Bahrain. This question is for everybody. We're aware that Bahrain circuit will have more opportunities for overtaking compared to Melbourne. How do you help the drivers find that edge to identify whether they can or can't?
Franz, I think it's your turn to start this one.
Whether they can or can't overtake. They just should put the right-hand pedal and overtake the other one. Where's the problem? DRS open and go. There are 3 DRS zones here, long straights. I expect that we will see here much more overtaking maneuvers as in Melbourne. We all know that Melbourne is a track difficult to overtake, but here in Bahrain, I think that there are possibilities that drivers can overtake, and the rest we will see on Sunday.
Günther.
I agree with Franz.
Yeah, I think you let the drivers drive, so they'll figure out best where they think they can make a move on the driver in front of them.
Right.
I won't explain to Kimi where he has to overtake.
Leave me alone. Okay, next question, please.
Ben Edwards, Channel 4 TV. A question for Zach. Zach, you've got some big names management-wise now at McLaren. You've got James Key coming in. You mentioned Andreas Seidel. You've got Gilles Ferran there. Can you just explain to us the kind of the roles that each of those are going to play?
Andreas Seidel is going to be responsible for running the Formula One team, full stop. So he's the boss, and will ultimately be responsible for the performance. James Key is the technical director and will ultimately be responsible, along with many people, for producing a fast race car. And then Gilles de Ferran will remain in the role that he's been working with me in as sporting director, which is looking over a variety of McLaren racing programs. And he's done a great job kind of jumping in as we've been in transition. And so when Andreas gets settled into that, you'll see Gilles go more to the role that he was intended to do when we brought him on in the middle of last year.
Thank you, Zach. Next one, please.
Julien Billiot, the question to Zach. Zach, of the 14 bosses here, you're the only one whose team is not strongly affiliated to one of the top 3 teams at the moment. Do you share Renault's concern of the status of so-called B teams, especially in regards with aero-listed parts?
Of course we do. I think the way the sport has grown is enabled teams to be able to kind of do business, if you'd like, with other teams, and we'd like to see the sport come back to more of a purity of a constructor. They've done a great job. It's what the rule book allows, and so they've done an excellent job with it. But we'd like to see everyone be a little bit more independent moving forward.
Thank you. Next one.
Dieter Renken, Racing Lines and RaceFans.net, on exactly that topic, because that was my question. In any event, you obviously run to an independent type situation, whereas the other three are in some way or other affiliated to a larger team. I wouldn't be insulting and call them B teams, but certainly satellite or supplier relationships. How do you feel about these regulations, the other three?
First of all, if someone who runs a manufacturer team is complaining that the small teams are faster and better than him, then he hasn't simply done the homework in a proper way. Yeah? Because, you know, we at Toro Rosso, I can only talk now Toro Rosso, we have from Red Bull Racing the gearbox from last year, the rear suspension from last year, and parts from the front suspension. Most of the front suspension we have anyway done by ourselves. So, and the reason why Toro Rosso is so competitive is mainly because of the fantastic power unit, which we have from Honda. It seems that others are not doing such a good job, yeah? And therefore they should not complain and whinging around. They just should do their job. And we have a good package together with the car, fantastic drivers, and a fantastic power unit from Honda. That's the reason why we are competitive.
Good.
As Franz says, leave us alone. Leave us doing our job. You know, we are fine. Get better yourself. I think a lot of these manufacturer teams should see also the opportunity they are given, because what they want to take something away from us. I see it like this, which was there before. We didn't invent it. Red Bull, Toro Rosso, Haas, Ferrari didn't invent this. This was there. We took it, this model, and did it. If they want to do it, they can do it, but we are not going to say you have to do it. So we are not the people which want to take something away from the manufacturer. If you think your way is the better one, have at it. I mean, good luck, you know, and I wish them well. But if you don't deliver, as Franz says, you know, if you are yourself your own problem, you know, because you don't do it well, don't blame other people which do a different job for doing it well, and try to diminish what they are doing by making them worse. Because with doing that, the gap will grow. Because in the moment, the teams which have these affiliations with a big team, they are getting closer to the top three, and that's what it should be. If we are knocked down, then we create, instead of a two-tier society, it will be a three-tier. Will be the works teams, the good ones, then we will have the bad works teams, and then we will be us. You know, so what have we achieved then for the sport? And that is our principle. We don't try to take anything away from anybody. It was there, you know, it was decided democratically years ago that this is a model which can work. We read the rules, some other people didn't, and here we are. So I think it's a model which is pretty good to go forward. So, I mean, I would like it stays.
And Fred, have you got anything to add?
No, but I don't want to speak for the others, but honestly, I think there is a regulation that we are playing a fair game in the area of the regulation, and we have to stay aware about the phantasm of everybody, that I don't care about what the others could think about the situation, that there is a regulation. We are pushing like hell to stick to the regulation and to do our best, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Let's go on to the next question, please.
Christoph Becker, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. This week, there's been a call, not for the first time, by international organizations on F1 and FIA to demand the release of prisoners who allegedly have protested against the race here. FIA and F1 have refrained from doing so. What's your position here?
Who would like to start?
It's quite easy. We are here for a sport event, not for a political event. Yeah? That means, first of all, I was surprised that there are still some political turmoil, which I don't think is the reality. I think that the reality is just that a few people want to create troubles, and Formula One is here to make sport, to entertain the people, and we should not be involved in any political questions. This people should do who are here, who are living here, the government, whoever. That's their job, not our job.
Thank you, Franz. Anyone else like to add to anything Franz has said on the subject? Okay. Thank you. Next question, please.
Jens Nagler, Bild. There had been some complaints from drivers that they couldn't see the starting lights in Melbourne. I'm just wondering, did you hear anything from your drivers? How much of a problem is it? Is there any solution?
Is that a question to all four? All four? Okay, let's start with Fred this time.
No, we had no issue with these particular points, but I think it depends also of the position on the grid and perhaps the halo, but I think they will sort it out quite soon to find a clear solution.
It was Pierre Gasly in this press conference yesterday who said he had problems in Melbourne. Anything from your drivers, Zach?
No, our drivers didn't say anything.
No, nothing from our ones. They were fine with it.
Both had a good start.
Maybe because they didn't see it. Yeah.
Any more questions? Yes, one more.
Dieter Renken, Racing Lines, racefans.net. Gentlemen, apart from Zach, you may have noticed that Zach's car today has got the brand of an e-cigarette, a new generation type cigarette on it. Is it something that you consider in terms of commercial relationships for your own teams going forward?
Friends?
I don't care where the money is coming from. I'm fine with it.
Gunther?
In the moment, we don't have the issue. Nobody's approaching us, and should we be approached to do it, we would look into it and think about hard. But this is one of the things we are not going actively after alternatives to cigarettes, and it's just like we will deal with it when we get the problem.
Yeah, I have no particular comments on this point because we are not in the same situation.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this afternoon. Thank you very much for your time.